Hi, everybody. This is Lee, and I'm talking about Jill Stein and voting reform with this video. Jill Stein led the recount effort in 2016. She led the effort to recount the voting in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Amid a lot of controversy, she took a lot of heat. There was a lot of pushback and backlash. She had a mixed degree of success in some states and then in other states, not. The reason being that there was a lot of defensiveness surrounding the voting process there, which was unfortunate. But in fact, Jill Stein made many discoveries about the voting systems in those states, the fact that they were in need of reform, very much so. In comparison to states such as Washington, Colorado, Oregon, states that use paper balloting, states that have the ability to hand count, to have exit polling, to verify the data, and to assure the public that the voting was fair. You don't really hear so much controversy about those states. And the coincidence is that they use paper ballots. In Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, there's a mixture of paper balloting and machines. Specifically in Pennsylvania, there's just no way to audit whatsoever. They use machines. There's no audit trail. There's no way to actually verify that the machines were calibrated correctly and were not interfered with. And so the voting system, specifically in Pennsylvania, is very vulnerable to corruption and controversy. And that's what was discovered during the recount effort, that specifically Pennsylvania is a problem spot. And so there is an effort to continue to fix the Pennsylvania voting system, and then as a result, hopefully get some reform in other states too, nationwide. And so Jill Stein is hosting a forum in Pennsylvania. It's February 25th, a Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's all day. And then there's going to be a reception afterward. It's going to be at the Friends Meeting House, 320 Archer Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so people have kind of said, what's she doing with all that money? And this is something that she's doing with the money. She's hosting this conference. And it's free to the public. And there's going to be a lineup of speakers and presenters, and you can RSVP so they can know what the count is going to be. There's going to be information on the evidence uncovered during the recount, the status of challenges in court surrounding the recount, and then ideas for moving forward to restore voting integrity. And so there will be experts from around the country, and all that information will be available at jill2016.com. And she's saying that a well-informed citizenry is the best resource for empowering the changes needed in the electoral system. Other topics will be fair voting systems and equipment, exposing and eliminating Jim Crow, electoral Jim Crow, as she describes it, laws and practices, alternatives to money and influence, ballot access, and then legal action being taken, and more. She wants to address voter ID, the interstate cross check, and then other restrictions that disenfranchise voters throughout the United States. And she's inviting activists and elected and appointed officials to join that conference. And let's see. There's also on the day of the conference, there's going to be a continental breakfast and a lunch at no charge, and then of course the reception after. And so, if you're in that area, it sounds like it's going to be a very inspiring program, very informative, and you'll be well taken care of. And so, Jill Stein is not alone in this. She's at the forefront. She is the vanguard. She's out in front, and so she's, the one who's the lightning rod for, support and then for criticism. But she is dedicated to voting reform, electoral reform. She's put her head down. She's grinding. She's teamed up with Gary Johnson and Rocky De La Fuente. Gary Johnson of the Libertarian Party And then Rocky De La Fuente, who ran as a Democrat and then went independent in the general election. They've all three of them been on a rampage all across North America, filing court documents, making efforts to challenge restrictions, voter access, ballot access, and then unfair voting laws too. And this includes the debate efforts to be more have debates that are more inclusive, and then more respectful of the North American public. And so she's grinding it out. It's being done. And so there are people who are saying that there's no use fighting the two-party system because it's here to stay. The structure is too firm. If we can't beat them, and it seems like we can't, we might as well join them. Jill Stein has not given up the fight, and she's right not to do that because anyone who visits ballotaccessnews.org, which is run by Richard Winger, will see that states are changing their voting laws even as we speak. They're considering bills right now. Colorado and Minnesota have decided to open their primaries to independents. There are bills in certain other states to do the same thing. They're being considered. I think Hawaii is one. Virginia considered it and then rejected it. And then there's also bills to lower the petitioning requirements in some of the most hardest states like Georgia, Oklahoma, South Dakota, to improve ballot access for candidates. And I think in Indiana as well. And so there's a lot of reforms. There's also ranked choice voting bills that are being considered. Maine has already done its ranked choice voting bill. And then Oregon, a county in Oregon, has done that. And so those are also being considered in the 2017 legislature. And so it's being done. It's not easy, but it's doable, as long as someone actually wants to give it a try. And so Jill Stein, I think, is correct to host that conference in Philadelphia, specifically because Pennsylvania, out of the 3 states that she recounted, Pennsylvania was the one that was least accountable for its voting system. And this is important because there have been several elected officials who have gone down amid corruption charges. They've been investigated and then charged and convicted, having to step down from their positions because of the corruption in that area, in that region. And so the voting system definitely needs to be reformed from top to the bottom. And there's going to be a special election, as a matter of fact, on March 21st in Pennsylvania to replace an elected official who went down amid corruption charges and had to resign the position. And so Cherie Honkala, Jill Stein's 2012 VP candidate, is going to be on the ballot in Philadelphia. And so there is motivation definitely in general to improve the voting process, but definitely for the Greens and third partiers, in order to ensure just fair access to elected positions, they do have to work to fix the voting system that's preferential to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And so without electoral reform, it's hard to get ahead. And Jill Stein's doing that. She's making the effort. And so for those who are saying it can't be done, maybe visit that conference and see that there are steps being done that have been accomplished, that are in process of being accomplished now, and that there are future actions as well surrounding electoral reform. And so giving up, I think, is it's too soon to do that when there's so much happening under the radar, down ballot, in the courtrooms, in the conferences, on Ballot Access News. You can see all that. And so I say, keep your head up and keep positive and be optimistic. Changes are going to come. Good luck.